All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Berlin Board of Education meeting on June 9th. We are going to call this meeting to order at 7:07, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we are going to begin our meeting with special presentations. We have an announcement for Teacher and Para-Educator of the Year, Berlin High School recognition for Valid Victorian and Salutatorian, CAVE Leadership Awards, and thank you to our student board reps. So I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent to start out with the Teacher of the Year and Para-Educator of the Year.
Thank you. Please join me in congratulating Michelle Wade, teacher of grade 5 at Mary E. Griswold School as Berlin's Teacher of the Year. Michelle has earned a Bachelor of Arts in English from Eastern Connecticut State University in 2003 and her master's degree in Reading and Literacy from Walden University in 2010. She's been teaching 21 years and the last 7 have been in Berlin. Michelle says that creating a welcoming and communicative classroom is central to her teaching. She prioritizes fostering a safe space where students feel valued, respected, and empowered to express themselves. This environment reinforces understanding that mistakes are not failures, but essential steps in the learning process. A tangible example of this is our Spot My Own Mistake poster, where students celebrate, identify, and learning from their errors, creating a culture of mutual support. Her colleagues note that Michelle consistently demonstrates an inevitable ability to inspire enthusiasm and motivation of learning in her students. Through a genuine passion for teaching and her creativity, student-centered approach, she cultivates a classroom environment where curiosity thrives, learning feels exciting. One parent stated she entered the teaching profession for all the right reasons, consistently going above and beyond to ensure her students feel loved, encouraged, and challenged. In addition to her work that she accomplishes in the classroom, Michelle is also a leader of the Student Advisory Committee. This committee empowers students, equipping them with the valuable life skills in communication and community engagement. Students develop leadership skills by organizing events that positively impact the Berlin community. For instance, during a Random Acts of Kindness Week, they partnered with a local business, like Switches and Stop and Shop, to decorate bags and distribute kindness stickers, extending their positiveness beyond the school walls. As our 2026 Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Wade will experience a unique opportunity. She will have a chance to share her passion for teaching, love for children, and the role that she plays in a child's life on a day-to-day basis. She will be a speaker of Berlin's Convocation in August and will be honored at the annual Board of Education meeting in November. Please congratulate Michelle Wade. Next, I'd like to ask Michelle Joycener, Supervisor of our Special Education, to come forward and share about our Paraprofessional of the Year.
Please join me in congratulating Jennifer Matney from Emma Hart Willard School as Berlin's Para-Educator of the Year for 2026. Jen is someone who can work with a variety of environments and at any grade level. Wherever she is, she works hard to build great relationships with students. She easily meets students where they're at, both academically and social-emotionally. Jen's flexibility is one of her greatest qualities. She was an asset while working in the STEP program. When working at the elementary level, she easily served students in a variety of classrooms. She quickly learned the expectations and the styles of each teacher she worked with and easily worked with students with a variety of needs at different grade levels. Jen's caring, dedicated, and compassionate demeanor proved to be just the right combination to have when working with the students. She sets high expectations for all students and knows exactly when to push them so that they would be able to meet with success and independence, and when to be there just for support and guidance. The students trust her and know that she truly cares about them and their well-being. Jen is not only a support to her students, but to her coworkers as well. She is always a team player and willing to go the extra mile to help out both within and outside of the classroom. Jen's teamwork, dedication, patience, and empathy are qualities that truly make her such a remarkable person and para-educator. Jen will be honored for her dedication and excellence at the November Board of Education meeting. Congratulations to Jen Matney.
Next, I'd like to ask Berlin High School Principal Katie Amento to come forward to introduce the valedictorian and salutatorian.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Congratulations to everyone who's being recognized this evening. Tonight, I am going to start by calling up our class of 2025 salutatorian, Victoria Voice-Bejeva. Victoria, come on up, please. Victoria has been described as industrious, remarkable, intelligent, and dedicated to both academics and extracurricular pursuits. Victoria has always had a love for numbers and problem solving, making math and STEM courses some of her favorite subjects. She was surprised to find that she very much enjoyed Mr. Jones's Southern Connecticut State University Business Law course, which prompted her to join the mock trial team and sparked an interest in the legal aspects of business. Through her work with the BHS mock trial team, Victoria helped lead the team to the Elite Eight, demonstrating a profound understanding of law. Victoria is a three-sport varsity athlete and is a member of the cross-country, indoor track, and outdoor track teams, serving as team captain. In addition, Victoria earned all-academic, scholar athlete, and all-conference nominations, qualifying for states multiple times. Victoria is an active member of the BHS DECA chapter, where she served as secretary and currently as president. She placed in the top 6 in the individual finance series and 4th in the individual human resources series. Victoria has been inducted into the National Honor Society and Rho Kappa National Social Studies Honor Societies and demonstrates profound commitment to her academic responsibilities. Outside of the classroom, Victoria is a competitive rhythmic gymnast. Victoria earned the title of state champion 3 times and was a Junior Olympics national qualifier. Following an injury, Victoria's path changed and she became a dedicated coach, which speaks volumes about her ability to transform challenges into opportunities. After graduation, Victoria will attend Penn State University, where she will study accounting, with the intent of pursuing a master's degree in accounting to ultimately become a CPA. Please join me in congratulating Victoria Voice-Bejeva, our salutatorian. Next, I'm going to call up Nicholas Ibrahimi, class of 2025, valedictorian. Nicholas Ibrahimi is an exceptional student, challenging himself with rigorous coursework over his 4 years at Berlin High School. Nicky has received numerous academic recognitions over his BHS career, with the ultimate academic accolade of earning the title of Class of 2025 valedictorian. His athletic accomplishments are equally impressive. Nicky is a 3-sport varsity athlete, a member of the BHS football team, wrestling team, and track and field team. Nicky is a CIC State Open Wrestling champion, as well as the captain of both the wrestling and track teams. It should also be mentioned that he holds a BHS record and placed 8th in the state of Connecticut. In addition, Nicky was named the 2024-2025 CIC Scholar Athlete. Nicky has carefully considered his extracurricular activities to help him achieve his future career goals. He is part of multiple Berlin High School independent study teams, including one in particular that works closely with the University of Connecticut in researching anti-malarial drugs. In addition to his anti-malarial studies, Nicky also works with a permaculture and biology team that addresses the aesthetic design of outdoor student life areas to improve health, wellness, and sustainability for humans and the environment. Nicky is a member of several BHS curricular activities, including mock trial team, HOSA chapter, National Honor Society, Rho Kappa National Social Studies Honor Society, Upbeat, DECA, the Wilderness Club, and was elected the vice president of the senior class. In addition, Nicky has logged over 200 hours of community service with Berlin youth sports teams. Nikki embodies the true spirit of leadership, inspiring and influencing others through his actions and serving as an outstanding role model throughout our school community. He plans to attend Trinity College, where he will be a member of the wrestling team and will double major in neuroscience and biology before attending medical school with the intention of becoming a neurosurgeon. I was going to say, Nikki, I hope you have some time to sleep after all of those extracurriculars, but I don't believe neurosurgeons sleep. So congratulations to you. Very well deserved. Please join me in congratulating our 2025 valedictorian, Nikki Ibrahimi. Do you need this script?
Next, I have the privilege of honoring our CABE Student Leadership Awards. The CABE Student Leadership Award honors Connecticut high school and middle school students who exhibit exemplary leadership skills. 2 students from each member school are nominated. So we have 2 from the high school, which we'll do first, and 2 from the middle school. First from the high school, I'd like to introduce Max Ding. Max here. Max is a natural-born leader who consistently demonstrates his commitment to academics, athletics, and extracurricular excellence. He has earned the Connecticut Seal of Biliteracy in Mandarin and Spanish, and he has been inducted into the National Honor Society and the ROCAP and National Honor Social Studies Honor Society. Max is intellectually curious as he demonstrated participation in a month-long fellowship at UConn's Institute of Material Science, analyzing kinetics and synthesizing polymers using a diachloromethane setting and analyzing the properties of the films created. Max has the knack of balancing rigorous academic schedule with an array of extracurricular activities, including medical club, HOSA, weightlifting club, the Magical Singers. He is a member of the BHS math team, senior house leadership of Upbeat, Willard's House. Earlier this spring, he was on stage performing a role in The Wizard of Oz. The year before production of Wizard of Oz musical, he volunteers as a classroom assistant at Willard Elementary School and at the Peck Memorial Library, and at the Chinese Language School of Greater Hartford. Athletically, Max has played baseball for the past 12 years, currently serving as a pitcher and outfielder on the BHS varsity team, which plays tomorrow, correct? Yes. As long as it doesn't rain out, right? Yep. He is also a 4-year varsity indoor track member and has qualified for the state championship in shot put and the 4x200 meter relay multiple times. Max plans to study either bioengineering or biomedical engineering, biochemistry, or molecular biology at Brown University, with plans to be an orthopedic surgeon or biomedical engineer in the future. Max's combination of intelligence, leadership, and kindness, along with his unwavering commitment to excellence, make him a deserving recipient of the CABE Student Leadership Award. Congratulations, Max. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to introduce, not that she needs an introduction, because Anusha Hassan. I'd like to say you're getting this award for being a Board of Ed rep, but you did a lot more than that, so thank you. And we'll miss you next year, so thank you. Anusha is an outstanding student leader whose unwavering dedication to academics, extracurricular involvement, and community service distinguishes her among her peers. Academically, she has consistently pursued an ambitious and rigorous course load, demonstrating intellectual curiosity and a passion for learning. Her commitment to scientific inquiry led her to conduct 5 weeks of research at UConn Health, where she explored the roles of various genes may play in osteosarcoma and tumor, I'm not going to pronounce, tumorigenesis, sorry, through various, I might need a little help, but I know it's chemistry. What's it? Go ahead.
Read your own speech.
Yeah. Immunohistochemistry. In recognition of her academic excellence, she has earned the Connecticut Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish, Urdu, and holds a membership in both the National Honor Society and the ROCAP and National Honor Society. And Anusha's leadership extends beyond the classroom, where she made a profound impact on both the school and the broader community. For the past 2 years, she has served as the Board of Education student representative, amplifying student voice and bridging the gap between student body and the district leadership. Amongst many clubs, she is an active member of Berlin High School's Model UN Club and leads the school's HASA chapter as president. It's fostering a passion for global affairs healthcare among her peers. Additionally, as a writing center tutor, Anusha provides valuable guidance to fellow students, helping them strengthen their communication skills. Her dedication to serve is equally remarkable. Anusha has been an active member of the mosque community throughout her life, currently serving as the president of the Muslim Youth Association of Connecticut. Throughout the 4 years, she has held a role as she organized fundraisers, coordinated volunteer efforts, and spearheaded initiatives to uplift the community as promote social responsibility. Anusha will attend the University of Connecticut this fall to pursue a degree in allied health services with a focus on a physician assistant and dental studies. Her exceptional combination of intelligence, compassion, and leadership make her a deserving recipient of the CABE Student Leadership Award. Congratulations. Next, from McGee Middle School, Audrey Jersick. Teammate A is proud to name Audrey Jersick as the CABE Student Leader Award recipient for 2005. Audrey far exceeds the criteria for this honor, showing empathy, leadership, dedication, diplomacy, and a willingness to take on a challenge. As a member of the McGee Student Council, Audrey plays a huge role in making decisions for McGee School, as well as communicating with her peers and staff members and executing plans made by the council. Audrey is also involved in theater with the Newington Children's Theater. Her experience in drama have helped her develop her motivation, self-confidence, and collaboration skills while working with others. All of these assets translate into the classroom, where Audrey demonstrates academic prowess, willingness to take academic risks, and a positive attitude towards learning. She is insightful, inquisitive in all of her subjects, and her peers often look to her for leadership and guidance. Overall, Audrey's ambition and involvement make her an excellent choice for the CABE Leadership Award. Congratulations, Audrey. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to introduce Elena Paz. It is with great pride that we recognize Elena for this year's Team 8B recipient of the CABE Leadership Award. Her selection for this honor reflects her exceptional leadership qualities demonstrated through her remarkable achievements both in and out of the classroom. From earning consecutive empathy awards and placing third regionally in the Patriots Pen Essay competition on democracy, to her athletic accomplishments including state championships in hockey, all-star recognition in golf, and state-level success in track. Elena has consistently shown what it means to lead by example. Her involvement in school activities through the Spartan Spotlight and the McGee TV, combined with her artistic achievements and dedication to the community service at the Friendship Center in New Britain, exemplify a well-rounded leadership that the CABE Award celebrates. Within the classroom, Elena is a leader among her peers and sets an example for others to follow. Her classmates can depend on her to engage them in meaningful discussions and deepen their understanding of content. Elena's diligence, drive, and compassion make her a role model student as ideal recipient of the CABE Award. Congratulations, Elena. Congratulations. Got to go to the last two? Yeah, student reps. You got the paid names? It's not on here, it's on my book.
All right, so thank you to the superintendent for reading those last minute. I looked at the papers and I was like, oh, it's been a long day. There's some big words like in Max's and Anusha's. I was like, you can read that. So thank you for taking one for the team. But congratulations to the students. It's really great hearing about all of you. And congrats to our valedictorian and salutatorian. Right now, I'm going to welcome Grace and Anusha down to get your little thank you gift. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to thank the both of you for all your hard work this year. I'll wait till you get down, sorry. So Grace and Anusha prepare our reports for every board meeting, and it's one of the highlights of our meeting. We love learning and hearing about all the great things that the students are doing, and that's happening at BHS. But one thing I love the most is their dedication. Like anytime they say, you know, we have something, do you mind if we go after our report? I'm like, you go whenever you want. Thank you so much for even asking. Like, you guys, you know, you don't, your other stuff comes first, and they're just so dedicated and passionate to staying at our meetings the entire time, even though I've given them multiple opportunities to opt out anytime they'd like, but they're just very serious about it, and I respect that a lot. They, you know, chime in when they, you know, think that we should hear something that they have to say, and they're really professional, respectful, and it's been really great having the both of you this year. So Anusha, we're gonna miss you, but Grace will still be here, so you can, you know, show the next person the ropes. But thank you so much, and good luck, and thank you guys so much. Okay, so now we are going to move on to reports and correspondence to the board. So, report of board members. Do any board members have anything that they would like to report from the last meeting through now? Anything that you've attended or been involved in or anything like that?
So I had to make a list because there's quite a bit that has happened since the last meeting. So I was fortunate enough to attend the Willard fifth grade outing, the fifth grade field trip to the Florence Griswold Museum, the volunteer breakfast, which was incredibly emotional, as I have a fifth grader who was singing in the concert, and then, you know, all the fifth graders were waving goodbye at the end, so that was super emotional. I was able to attend the spring chorus concert, band concert, and DARE graduation, the Willard Field Day, and tie-dye for third grade, which was super special because I never seemed to get to do anything with my third grader. This year it's been mostly with my fifth grader, as this is her last year at elementary school. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm able to do everything for her, but tie-dye was really fun. She was super excited, jumped in my husband's arms and spilled his coffee all over the hallway. So we thank Mr. DJ for coming quickly to clean that up. But yeah, so I've been honored to be able to attend all of these lovely things with Willard. And thank you for allowing me and for all the lovely things that you guys do for them.
Thank you, Jess. Anyone else?
I think it was after this meeting, the capstone projects at the high school I stopped by to see. And it's just, you know, that's always just a really amazing array of student talent and interest, and love seeing the students really focus on some of their real passions and pull together this amazing project. And it's just a great program. And if you haven't seen it next year, I encourage you all to go. I also went to the Halo Awards for the theater department, about a 3-hour-long program, and we were able to walk away with 3 Halo Awards for our theater students, and always a great thing to see them recognized for their great work. And then finally, last Friday, Jazz with Pizzazz, and I'll let Brian say a few words about that because he was there as well. But you know, that's just a great ending to the school year with the music productions, to see the band there, some of our top musicians, and also just some of the community. There was a great alumni group that was there, and to see some of the people who have not only grown up in town with the music, but they've also, some of them are now teaching in our programs in Berlin.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to the Jazz with Pizzazz, too. You know, Mr. Dresco and Mr. Boyle every year just do amazing things with the arts and culture and the music, and that night is a lot of fun, and it was a wide array of different types of music the other night, for sure. And it was really a blast. But I think 2 things that hit me is, A, how much parental support and the parent volunteers that go into that is, you know, I've been on that committee, my wife's been on that committee. It's a lot of work, and the folks that do it behind the scenes certainly just deserve some recognition. And then additionally, like Jen was talking about the Alumni All-Star Band, I mean, you know, how they come back and really care about the community here in Berlin, I think is super powerful, and it was really, really nice to see. And the other thing I just want to give a shout out for, if anyone on Thursday is looking for something to do, I think this sounds interesting. The library is doing a history of the schools, not so much how they were built, but like the names behind them. So if you're wondering why Willard is Willard or Hubbard is Hubbard, the Historical Society is going to do an hour-long presentation on that. I'm going to attend virtually, but I'm just putting that out there. It sounded pretty interesting. So.
Well, I would like to share that I attended the Upbeat picnic on May 29th, and you guys did a phenomenal job. Upbeat, Jamie Miller, anyone else who, you know, was involved in putting it together. I know there's a lot of people involved, and maybe I say this every year, but I feel like it was the best Upbeat picnic yet. I just felt like there were so many people there. It was so well run. My 2-year-old ate like 3 hot dogs. I don't know how, but it was just a really great night. They loved the bounce houses and all the different things that there were to offer. I know Jamie did a great job with the raffle. So well done. I think it was a really positive, happy, fun night, despite the rain the week before. So great job. Anyone else? Okay, moving on to report of student representatives, so we'll turn it over to Anusha and Grace.
So over at VHS this month, we had an awfully busy month, but we're going to start off with McGee Fly-Up Day. So on May 23rd, VHS was happy to host the incoming freshman class for McGee Fly-Up Day. Student volunteers and staff were all happy to welcome a fresh new class of students up to the high school. See you guys next year.
And then the Culinary Arts 2 course at BHS participated in a cooking competition showcasing foods from all over the world, much like Culture Day. It was an incredible opportunity for students and faculty alike to have a little taste of the world right here at BHS.
And along with that, Ms. Portal's senior speech class presented their inspirational words of wisdom to BHS students and staff on May 29th. With life lessons both unique and personal, anyone listening was able to walk out of the auditorium with some memorable piece of advice from the graduating class. Great job, everyone.
And then a group of dedicated students have completed their CNA course, meaning they are now eligible to take the state exam and work in nursing homes with their license. Congratulations to all of our healthcare workers of tomorrow.
On June 5th, the Special Olympics torch burned bright at Berlin High. Students and staff cheered on local law enforcement and runners as they carried the flame of hope through town in support of the Special Olympics Connecticut.
And then Berlin High's student athletes officially turned into college athletes during BHS's signing day. They are taking their commitment to their sports to the next level, and we wish them all the best in this next new and exciting chapter.
Kind of staying on the sports path, many spring sports seasons have come to an end, but 2 teams continue to represent the Redcoat Pride by advancing in their respective state division tournament. Berlin boys baseball is advancing in the semifinals against Guilford on Tuesday, June 10th. Also on Tuesday, June 10th, Berlin girls golf hopes to defend a 4th state title during the Division II state championships at Toshua Knolls. Last week, the Lady Redcoats won their 5th straight CCC tournament at their home course in Timberland, with the top 4 scorers all being medalists. Good luck to both teams, and go Redcoats.
Hosted at Berlin High School on May 28th, the Women in Leadership Conference was an inspiring and empowering day, filled with powerful stories, meaningful connections, and unstoppable spirit. Students and educators alike came together to celebrate women in leadership, leaving them motivated with confidence and purpose.
And we'd like to give a little love to the BHS Teacher of the Year. And for the 2024-2025 school year, Berlin High School gym teacher Mr. Arnold has been awarded the BHS Teacher of the Year. For 26 years, Mr. Arnold has dedicated himself to the betterment of the students at BHS. He has inspired students to learn and grow, and his passion is evident to every student who has had him as an educator. Congratulations to Mr. Arnold. Thank you for all you do at Berlin High.
Finally, as the years have flown by, it is finally time to say goodbye to the departing senior class of 2025. With last week being senior outing, along with upcoming awaited events, such as all-night grad, the senior class will be saying goodbye to Berlin High. They will walk the stage at Sage Park on Friday, June 13th. Class President Marina Borselli, salutatorian Victoria Vozvashayeva, and valedictorian Nikki Ibrahimi present their advice to the class and many damp-eyed spectators, as well as we all wish them the best of luck in their upcoming endeavors.
That's all we have for Berlin High this month.
Thank you. Any questions for Grace or Anusha? All right, well, thank you for your report. And moving on to committee reports. Peter, would you like to report out on the F&O committee?
F&O committee met on June 4th, Wednesday. We made some tweaks to the budget recommendations. Ultimately, we kept the previous recommendations in place, but then elected to remove one of the dean and students from McGee in exchange for bringing on another teacher at the kindergarten level at Griswold in order to prepare for anticipated increase in enrollment and to keep class sizes at a reasonable amount. And we'll elaborate a bit more on the rationale on that later in our budget discussion.
Thank you. Brian, would you like to share the curriculum committee report?
Sure. The curriculum committee met on Wednesday, June 4th, promptly at 4:30. And the agenda that day was to go over a couple of preschool books to round out that curriculum now that it's a full day pre-K. And those were creative curriculum for preschool and developing roots. No issues. The curriculum committee approved those for consideration. Will be discussed later. And then there was also a conversation regarding an agenda item later in the agenda about personal devices. Now that we've moved forward with the phone lockup, we are looking to expand that to where kids are not going to be able to use their personal devices. We had a good conversation, and I'm sure we'll hear some of that tonight, but I can tell you that the curriculum committee largely supported this endeavor. I'll say that now, just so that when we hear that later, you know that we do want to move in this direction. We just think it's in the best interest of the students as well as the professionals in the building.
Thank you. And Peter, do you want to share about the ad hoc committee meeting this morning? Were you there? Wait, was it this morning, ad hoc?
We're going to, first reading policy, we're going to discuss later anyway. I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll share on the community engagement committee. We met on May 28th at 4:30. We had 2 agenda items: social media use and communication to the public. It was a very productive meeting, and we were able to have some really good, strong discussions and take some good action steps and next steps, and we scheduled our next meeting for June 18th at 11 a.m. But we talked about the social media use, and rather than having a Board of Education page, and this is something that we've been talking about for some time and kind of going back and forth on, instead of having a Berlin Public Schools page. And I think, I have said for a while now, I think that's more appropriate than, a board of volunteers where we have annual turnover. Having someone manage that can be really, have a number of challenges. But throughout our committee meetings over the past, from December through now, we've continued the discussion and to build on what our vision for that is. So Brian had worked with his team to get that account up. We've discussed 3 posts per week with the comments off. So this has been an ongoing discussion with our committee, and I think this was an ongoing discussion with the board previously. Probably over the past year. So it took some time, but I think this is a great time to launch it over the summer and build the followers. We also discussed communication to the public, and that's, a topic that has been ongoing. And as we've continued to meet as a committee, we've been building off of, that to see certain areas where we can really try and start focusing on and doing well at rather than trying to hit them all. And, ways to engage the community with QR codes and where can we place them to get followers, to, get emails, to sign up for our emails, so on and so forth. So we've really brainstormed a lot around that. We talked about how can we bring seniors into the schools, and again, this has been an ongoing discussion. And we talked about partnering with the Senior Center to give them X amount of free tickets and, games and events, and just seeing how we can bring more in. How can we work with the library, so on and so forth. So that's why while we were in that meeting, we scheduled our next meeting to just continue to build on these conversations. Something we used to have in the past that I absolutely loved was the district calendar. And so you used to be able to go on and see, like, for this, for the month, every event happening on June 9th. And then it was color-coded by school, so you could see, like, oh, McGee has this sporting event, BHS has these sporting events, or there's a concert or a musical or whatever's going on. And, when I was new on the board, it helped me as a new board member see what was going on and ways I could get involved outside of the board meetings, which then gave me more to report on during the report of board members. So we talked about ways to bring that back. So we initially got rid of that because of the cost. So Brian and his team are looking into how can we bring something back that's more cost effective. It's been a number of years, so I'm sure it's, there might be ways now. So on June 18th, he's going to report back about the district calendar and what we can do with that. And then we brought back the topic of board liaisons. And so we've revisited this a handful of times, of board members being assigned to certain schools to be the liaisons, because we were kind of talking about, well, can board members go to PTO meetings? And then, yeah, they can, but really, like, it's more appropriate if they're the liaison. And that was, like, kind of what the conversation centered around. So I think with the district calendar and the social media, and it's all being streamlined together, it's going to be a more effective way to implement the board liaisons and then have board members be successful carrying that out. So more is to come June 18th, but these conversations have been going on. We've been building on them, and we just want to make sure we do them well rather than try and just throw things together to see what works. So June 18th is our next meeting, so that's the update. Correspondence to the board?
Yes, we have one correspondence to the board. It's from Donna and Tom Francolino. Thank you so much for the beautiful flowers for Tom's mom and my dad, for all you contribute support. And of course, your thoughts and prayers. Fondly, the Francolino family.
Thank you. All right, moving on to audience of citizens. Berlin community members are encouraged to share their thoughts with the Board of Education. However, if you need to come up, please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to speak. It won't be a back and forth. We may have to follow up separate. Would anyone like to approach the board?
Good evening. My name is Amy Pager. I live at 153 Dale Drive. I just wanted to start off by saying it's wonderful to hear all the positive things that the Board of Ed is doing. Today, I'm here to fight for one of those positive things that the Board of Ed has. Thank you to the Board of Ed members for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here as a parent and, more importantly, as an advocate for my son and the Pathways program that is currently at McGee Middle School, a program that has become a critical support in my son's education and his personal growth. We just recently learned that the program would be dissolving and that my son would be transferred over to another individual's caseload and absorbed into another program. While I am confident that this program meets the needs of its current participants, I'm also confident that it will not meet the needs or have the same positive effect on my son as his current program does. The Pathways program was created for kids like my Jack, and the other program was created for students who have different needs and require a different set of supports. Pathways is not just another special education service. It is a thoughtfully designed program that specifically supports students with executive functioning challenges, students who may struggle with organization, self-regulation, focus, and planning. These are invisible difficulties that can deeply affect both academic success and everyday interactions. What sets Pathways apart is its dual focus. It helps students to understand and cope with their exceptionalities while also teaching them how to build meaningful, appropriate relationships with peers and adults. My son is learning not just how to stay on task, but how to advocate for himself, how to manage frustration, and how to navigate a social world that he often feels like he doesn't fit in. Much of his success in this program is due to the consistency and compassion and expertise of Mr. Parisi and his team. So not only is my son losing the program that is tailored to his specific needs, but he's also losing his person and the team of teachers that he comes to rely on and connect to. Mr. Parisi and Ms. Fonka do not just deliver support, they connect, mentor, and guide each student with an individualized approach that makes them feel seen and understood. The relationships built within this program are just as important as the academic and social supports it provides. I came to this meeting tonight to advocate that we find a way to keep this program. I'm a team player. I'll do whatever it takes. If you need me to go door to door or find a grant or something, I'll do it. I left my son tonight extremely upset, so much so that he doesn't want to come to school next year if Mr. Parisi is not going to be there. I know, Mr. Benigni, that you, my son had the pleasure of reading his writing to you the other Board of Ed meeting. While a portion of that success is due to his amazing language arts teacher, Mrs. Prentice, his ability to go up to you and speak to you and shake your hand in a socially appropriate manner is because of Mr. Parisi and his team. People don't understand how hard it is to be the parent of a child with special needs. We don't have the opportunities like parents of typical children. Other children and adults don't understand kids like my son, so socializing them in sports is not an option, and no one is banging on our door to hang out or have play dates, unfortunately. Pathways gave us the promise that my son would have the social opportunities like his typical peers. I cannot stress enough how vital it is to maintain both the Pathways program and the staff that run it. To remove or dilute either would be a profound step backwards, not only for my child, but for every student who depends on this kind of specialized instruction and guidance. Programs like Pathways give our students a fighting chance to succeed both in school and in life. I ask you to continue investing in what works, and Pathways works. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. The superintendent will follow up with you after the meeting. He'll email you.
Along with Linda Holy,
Okay.
Director of Special.
Thank you for coming out this evening. Moving on to our next agenda item, we have an administrative resignation, the Dean of Students at Griswold. This is a sad one, but do we have a motion for consideration?
Resignation of Kara Quinn effective June 30, 2025, and to thank her for the 7 years of service she has provided to the youth of Berlin and wish her well in her new position.
Do we have a second? So motion by Kara, second by Jamie. Okay, any discussion? I just want to say we'll miss Kara and wish her luck on her next position. Okay, we can move on to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, vote carries 9-0. Moving on to the consent agenda that is included in your board packet. Do we have a motion for consideration?
Consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second? Motion by Peter, second by Gina. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, we can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, vote carries 9-0. Moving on to new business, the Berlin VNA service agreement, the Visiting Nurse Association service agreement with the Board of Education for July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. This is an annual agreement. We need a motion for consideration, and then we can go into discussion. Do we have a motion for consideration?
I move that the board approve the agreement between the Berlin Board of Education and the Berlin Visiting Nurse Association for the fiscal year 2025-2026.
Motion by Melissa. Do we have a second? I'll second. Second by Jen. Any discussion? The agreement is posted in Schoology if anyone hasn't seen it, but anything anyone would like to?
I just want to add, I know there's been some changes, and I can only speak because I had the personal connection with Willard, but it's been a phenomenal positive change with the new leadership there. So that's all I can really say. And I love our school nurse.
you want to say something?
I could just speak. As I noted in the update numerous times, there's been a change in the nursing supervision at the VNA and a change in nursing assignments. The Willard nurse is new, and she is doing a fantastic job. But just the overall demeanor and the positiveness of the nursing department has lifted greatly since the new leadership across the district. So I'm glad it's going all the way back to parents and that they're seeing it also. So thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, we can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Vote carries 9-0. Moving on to personal devices. So I will have the superintendent discuss a little bit about this, and then we'll move to a motion, and then we can open it up to discussion. Oh, okay.
So I'm going to ask Lori Turpin, one of our curriculum directors, to come forward. She's been working with our tech integration and our IT department on this, and they presented to the subcommittee, the curriculum committee.
Thank you.
asked
So we, as a tech team, talked a lot about our personal devices and the use of them this year, and we started really talking about it in the fall and have come up with a recommendation as we move forward. So I'll have, at this time, Jen Nero, who's our tech integration specialist at the high school, come up and talk, and then we also have Craig Zemansky, who's our IT director for the entire district. And then if you have any questions, Katie Menta is also here. This is a district policy, but most of the personal devices are used at the high school, but it is not something that's just specific to Berlin High School. Thank you.
I just want to clarify to the board real quick. We're going to have them present. Just hold your questions to the motion, and then during the discussion, we'll ask questions.
Good evening, everyone. As Lori just said, my name is Jen Nero. I'm the tech integration specialist here at the high school. This year, we started talking about personal devices because I have been a tech integration specialist here at the high school for the whole time that we've been one-to-one devices within our district. And in the beginning, when we started one-to-one, we didn't have enough devices to fully be one-to-one. So we allowed personal devices, but the climate of devices, the capabilities of devices have changed. And we haven't really had the conversation. And when the conversation kind of started, we were looking at AI changes and different things, but then we started looking into different areas as well and really kind of see what was being done with the personal devices. So there's kind of three things that I would like to talk about. Security and safety is the number one. So that's something that we realized what the students were doing with the devices does not really fit what should be going on in a classroom setting. The second thing I'd like to talk about is the distraction it is causing our students because of some of these things that they are capable only because they have a personal device. And then the third, I kind of already mentioned the fact that, well, we now have a device one-to-one. We have a device for every student, so we are now in a situation where we can go fully one-to-one and not have to allow the personal devices. So the safety and security, and Craig will talk after me, and he's IT director, so he has kind of the more technical background of some of this. But in talking with students and teachers and just seeing, because I go into classrooms every day and seeing things that are happening, these students have capabilities on a personal device to bypass pretty much all or most of our securities. So they are bypassing our firewall. They are adding applications they're not supposed to have in school. They are able to use AI tools. We've taken the phones and locked them up, but they're having texting capabilities because they have it on their laptops. So as much as we are thinking they are being used for educational purposes, they are being used for a lot more. I also run a group of students, independent study students, who are called tech experts at the high school, and they run a high school help desk and do projects for the school and the district, kind of where needed and where things come on. So I've had a lot of conversations with these students, mainly the seniors that are about to graduate, kind of saying, can you give me a reason why? Can you tell me why a personal device is truly needed versus a Chromebook? And not one of them could give me a reason. And when I said, is there any student using this device fully for kind of the correct reasons. They said there is not one student using it solely for correct reasons. So in having these conversations, I actually talked to 2 more students today, but they're running VPNs. They're getting on kind of anything that they would like to, even if it is completely school inappropriate, and we have very little oversight to that. So that's kind of where the conversation came. And then the distraction to it, the teacher in the classroom trying to manage, not knowing what's on personal devices. We have software called Securely that are supposed to help with assessments and help with some of this. It doesn't work on personal devices and things like that. And then even so much as final exams today, students who use personal devices can't take their exams on the personal device, some of them, or parts of the exams, same with SATs, same with AP testing. So they have to, very last minute, say, I don't have my Chromebook, can I have a device? And there's quite a few of them sometimes in certain situations, so there's that kind of that goes on too. So I'll pass it off to Craig to kind of give you some of the more technical piece, but that's kind of the educational classroom piece that I have to share.
Thanks, Jen. As Jen said, Craig Szymanski, Director of IT, and it's, you know, like I think Jen basically said it all. You know, they are the devices. You know, we have a legal obligation to keep our connection at the schools SIPA compliant, federal law, Children's Internet Privacy Act. Excuse me, and when they're using anonymizing VPNs and bypassing the security that we have in place, it leads to a threat to our E-rate funding, which covers half of our reimbursement for paying for the connection and the equipment and the Wi-Fi and everything. So, you know, we're kind of putting that at jeopardy, as well as not upholding the laws when they do bypass that. So if every student has, you know, a school-assigned managed device, there's oversight, there's, you know, an ability to have a safer, less distracted classroom, as Jen said. And as far as technical, you know, there's probably at least 150 laptops throughout the year that of more seniors and, you know, upperclassmen, but it's just, they come into the classroom with a device that can just run AI without a connection. We can install it on their own machines. The multimedia or software that's on those devices, I have no idea what it may be, but it's not all the time something that should be in the classroom. So that's really, you know, I can't think of anything else to say other than, you know, as far as keeping things compliant with federal laws, local laws, and, you know, the safety and cybersecurity of just having all managed devices in the classroom will give the teachers a little less distracted things going on. That's all. Any questions, I guess?
I'm going to entertain a motion first, and then I'll open it up.
The board transition to allowing only school-issued devices in our schools effective with the 25-26 school year and revise board policy accordingly.
Motion by Peter, second by Brian. Now we can open it up for discussion.
This impacts us the most, so I feel like our advice is probably the most valuable here. And I mean, looking at it from the teacher's point of view, like, those are logical arguments, but I think what's not taken into consideration is the fact that, like, this is student life as well. Like, students graduating this year are going on with their personal devices into college. Like, it's no longer just take away. It's, okay, now you have access to everything. So I think the phones are already away, and this is an opportunity for both classrooms, teachers, students, all alike, to learn that self-control. If there's the ability, or a teacher suspects that kind of distraction, then it's an opportunity to learn how to put the device away rather than just ripping it away and saying, oh no, you can't have it anymore. Like, that's not real life, and I think it doesn't teach students how to handle access to ulterior things. I mean, AI is a growing part of schools, and it's unfortunate that students would use it to cheat and not for the correct reasons. but I think it's really hard to assume that every single student, I mean, I have a personal device. I haven't used it all the time because of things like the testing barriers, but I had an iPad that I would use for note-taking, and it allowed me to have all of my notes handwritten and available at all times to me, but it didn't mean that I had to be on my phone. Plus the VPN and the barriers were working for me. Like I wasn't able to access ulterior things. So I think from the student perspective, it's really hard to just rip it away and say, no, you can't have it when that's not real life.
Thank you. Anusha, do you want to share anything while we're down at that end?
Yeah, I would just like to say, I think going off of what Grace was saying, I mean, I also have a personal device, and I think for me, the reason why I got the device was purely for like how easy it was. I found the Chromebooks to just be, sometimes they just wouldn't load, they would be too slow, or at night they would refresh when I was in the middle of an assignment and stuff like that. I just found that annoying. I had my personal device, it worked really well for me. I think from the seniors' point of view, it did work really well just in terms of like, kind of like balancing like, I mean, yeah, you have your class assignments and all of that, but then, for example, if I needed to access something to submit to a college and stuff, I could use that on my personal device. As far as the AI and stuff like that, I know this year, I'm not sure actually, but a lot of AI like systems like ChatGPT, which is the most popular, has been blocked by the Wi-Fi, and then without access to phones, people aren't able to access like extra AI. I think like going off what Grace was saying, this is like an opportunity to practice self-control. I think taking it away entirely right away might be a bit, I don't know, I think it would be a really big adjustment for all of the students to make. But if it's like a gradual change, I think that would be a better option.
I think a gradual change, but also the fact, like, you guys do have securities in place. Like, you obviously want the best for students, and that's apparent. I mean, there's reasons why you can't open certain things when you're on certain devices. And as far as my teachers and stuff, like, through testing and stuff, I took the seal of biliteracy today, and there were multiple people on personal devices, yet my teacher was still able to access their screens through securely. So I think there are certain precautions in place. I'm not sure the, like, logistics of that, but I think, too, the adjustment portion of it, like, it's the ability to kind of trust students and say, okay, we already took your phones. You're not using your phone in class. Your backpacks are in a locker, but this is your device, and you can access ulterior things. Like, your life isn't just school. It goes beyond that, and this is kind of that opportunity.
Thank you. Anyone else have? And if you guys want to respond to anything, you can. Anyone. It's open to the floor.
So Anusha and Grace are correct in some ways. They are definitely probably using it for some solid reasons, but there are ways around everything they're saying they're doing. There are things many other students are doing, and my tech experts included, because they're tech savvy and they teach their friends, that allow them to bypass it all. So there is a certain knowledge base, and there has to be a want to do it, and I don't think necessarily every student wants to find a workaround. I would definitely agree with them on that, but I think we have a pretty significant population that is finding a workaround, and I've talked to quite a few of the students as well that are finding the workaround. So there's that side of it all. And we just can't manage the personal devices. We don't have the oversight. So if you're looking at the safety and security and the knowing what's going on in a classroom and the distraction level, there's no way around it, especially that the number does seem to go up a little bit every year of how many personal devices. And something we didn't mention earlier that might play a little bit of a part is we did do our research on how many school districts are allowing personal devices. And we looked at something like maybe 30 schools, local schools close by, schools that we would seemingly be pretty similar to. And almost all of them do not allow personal devices. We are one of the very few There are a couple that do and are pulling back from it, and then there was maybe one or two that haven't started pulling back, and I don't know if they will pull back from it. But overall, we are one of the very few school districts that do allow personal devices as well. And I didn't say that earlier.
It's really hard to assume that, I mean, as much as you say that students, the growing population of students misusing the trust that, with a personal device, but it's really hard to just rip it away. I mean, I didn't start using my personal device until later in the year, and when I actually had it, it was a very useful tool for me beyond a Chromebook, and I think it's really hard to just say, okay, the solution to this is rip it away. I think the pulling back portion or some other kind of in-the-middle solution may be what the schools need, rather than just completely taking it away and saying you can't have it, much like they did with the phones.
And I think that's a fair statement you make, Grace. There's an analogy that Craig, I'd like you to share, if you don't mind. You know the analogy I'm speaking to? And I think that's what both of you are bringing up when you have your personal device, the difference between that and a Chromebook. So go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, just a comment on how distracting it is when you have I kind of compare when you have a classroom full of Chromebooks and if you have a few MacBooks or nice new PCs arrive, it's similar to, a student driving a Lamborghini into the parking lot and everyone else has a Honda Civic or, Corolla. It's very distracting and it's not, I don't think it's a good look when you're trying as a teacher to manage that, because there's a device that has so much horsepower compared to what we're able to provide them.
It also addresses, the horsepower is one piece of it, but there is I know AI is one piece we talked about, but it's not just AI. It's on that personal device, they could have any tool. A tool that a teacher doesn't know that they have, versus on a Chromebook that is managed, the teacher's expecting them to have those tools and have that access and can't manage or even touch the personal device in a sense. There's just a significant difference between those two scenarios of what's going on in the classroom.
So when kids have their personal devices, do they not have access to tools that the teachers are using?
We use a tool, a digital kind of sign-in called ClassLink. So when they log in to their Google account for the district, they get access to something called ClassLink, which all tools are kind of a member of, and then they can access those tools because the tools we use because of Chromebooks are digital tools. So they have access to those, but they can't log into any other account. So if it's a tool that we don't allow in our school because we have the Student Data Privacy Act, we get licenses with every software we use, and we know, our teachers know what tools we have. When you log into your school Google Chrome account, you have access to the subset that is allowed. When you open another Chrome profile and it's your personal profile, if it's a digital tool we're talking, so over the internet, you have access to anything that personal account has ever become a member of, whether it's AI, whether it's Netflix, whether it's whatever, their YouTube account, anything, social media, stuff like that, if they're running through a VPN. Now, our firewall does work if they're not trying to bypass it, but there are ways to bypass it. And there are ways that we, at this time, cannot block.
So I know, if I bring my personal device to my job at a school, and because I have other work to do because I'm staying late or whatever, I don't hook it up to the school Wi-Fi, I put it on my hotspot. And that's just the simplest, easiest way to bypass it. But, I think for me, I feel like this conversation kind of came up timely based on some things I've been thinking about. So we all received the book, The Anxious Generation. I'm not a huge reader, but I actually started reading it 2 weeks ago, and I haven't been able to put it down. And it really started getting me to reflect on a number of things that are going on with students now, things that even though I'm in front of high schoolers every day, I haven't considered. And I am in a class where I have computers, like I'm in a computer lab. So this year, I feel like, though it's not Berlin, I've seen just such an increase in cheating, even with kids I wouldn't expect to cheat. I've seen off-task behavior, incomplete work, all these different things. And so the anxious generation, reading that book, and I'm grateful that, we were provided a copy of it, really had me start thinking. So, the book opens talking about, like, the whole analogy with going to Mars. And if, we knew then, if we knew now what we knew then, we'd do things really different. We wouldn't send our kids to Mars, so on and so forth. And things that are happening, and we are allowing the kids to do right now, we are setting them up in ways that we would say, I can't believe, if we were actually handing the kids these certain things, X, Y, or Z. And I've been reflecting on it as a parent, as a teacher, and then someone looking to the future. So, I think, though they talk about, like, the school-wide cell phone ban, I think it also transfers into the technology component and what technology is looking like in the classroom, how it is used, and how it is a teacher's job to kind of scale it back in certain ways. Like, I've gone to paper assessments this semester instead of Google Forms. I pay $5 a month for a Chrome extension to see if kids are using AI and cheating, because kids I would least suspect to do it are doing it. And so though some students do really exhibit high levels of self-control and they wouldn't do it, like, it's just been a big challenge that I've been reflecting on, as an educator, board member, parent, that I really think that we have a collective and shared responsibility to come together and say, what are we gonna do that's right and best for all kids, even though my 4-year-old doesn't have a personal device yet. So I think there are a lot of challenges, and I think that book really helped get me reflecting on what some of these challenges are and start framing my thinking so I could begin to shift my thinking, because I'd say a month ago this wasn't even on my radar as a potential concern. And then, Brian had mentioned that this was coming up, and I said, wow, this couldn't have been a better time. I never thought I would be saying I fully support this, but I fully do, because I've always been for full student autonomy. But I think with the whole technology thing and the addiction and the brain science and the rewiring of the brain, we have a responsibility. So for the board members, if you haven't started reading the book, it's actually really great. I haven't been able to put it down, and I'm not someone who reads for pleasure. So it's really started shifting my perspective.
This one's hard for me because I have a soon-to-be senior. Grace, I really appreciate what you said, because it made me think, I agree with you. And at the beginning of this, I did not. I thought I was full on for this, but I changed my mind. And this is why. Is it possible, and this is really just a question, Jen and Greg, for you guys, if we just have, and again, this is hard for me because I'm going to have a senior and I'm trying to look at the whole picture and not him, because he has a personal device and I don't really agree with him having it. But if you have seniors, and Grace and Anusha, that have access to college, whatever, is there things that seniors or maybe upperclassmen, juniors and seniors have access to by using their personal device they do not have access to using the Chromebook? Is it beneficial to have a personal device as an upperclassman as opposed to younger? And I honestly don't know it, so I'm trying to make an educated decision here.
Or senior privilege?
Yeah, almost like, yes, like, is
To
it,
prepare them for the transition.
does it benefit them if it's a senior or, again, even a junior, I don't know, to have the access that the Chromebook does not provide?
So for seniors, we open up email so that they can email from their school accounts anyone. That's a senior kind of privilege, that they can receive email and send email to anybody. So if they, like they do it with Capstone for interviews and things like that, like that's kind of part of the learning process that's controlled, but then they might do it otherwise. So Common App is through Naviance. Naviance is completely open through school. I'm trying, do you want to?
If I can just add, we had our meeting, the same thing that you're bringing up, and that Grace said, as I said, I agree with Grace too. We talked about, I'm going to ask Katie to come up too and speak on this, because we had a big discussion about, my suggestion was just grandfathering the seniors in, and then the following year saying it's no one at the school. And the group thought that that would not be a great way to go, just because seniors may have already had access, they already have their Chromebooks. Say, seniors for this first year implementation can use their own devices, and then the following year it goes, 9 through 12, no personal devices. I just think, and Craig and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong here, if we could afford, and I know this is definitely something that we can, if we could give everyone a MacBook Air and then control it, that'd be great. Everyone would have the Ferrari or Lamborghini, but that's not the case. And so because of that, that's where the inequity comes in about what can be used. But if you want, Katie, I know we spoke, and you could definitely add some more perspective here.
So I have a lot of different angles that I want to, respond to, so I'm going to try to channel this a bit. So again, likewise to what Mrs. Miller said, and hearing you, Grace and Anusha, who are outstanding, not only student citizens here at Berlin High School, you lead with integrity, right? And so by no means is this any pointing of fingers to you or classmates alike, because it's not. The bigger concern, the global concern, is that we are moving at a high-pace digital world so fast that even our experts can't keep up, right? And so with that being said, as a building leader, in particular, my concern always goes to safety. And when we're thinking about safety and when I'm reflecting on this school year, because I'm going to be really honest and transparent, when the team brought this to me, I was not fully on board. I'm like, really? Of all the things we just did, building the culture with cell phones, this just seems like a lot all at once. And then living throughout this school year and thinking about that shift, I'd like to share, we've had so much positive feedback from students, parents, and staff members, teachers, about the culture change of removing those devices during instructional time. They're not banned, they're not locked up 24/7. They're removed during instructional time. So in some ways, this is defying. It's a bit ironic that we would have personal devices such as a MacBook with full access while it's going against the culture that we're trying to build with removing some of the distractions. Another example that something is on the rise, it's going to be a sad, it's not new, but it's going to be a sad reality, I think, with each passing year, is we're seeing online gambling, just as an example. I have a team that, wants to attend a conference on that, and it's no secret that we're walking around the cafeteria and poking in and seeing what students are doing on their phones and games like that. That's going on too, and that's just one of many examples. But in my experience this year, we had a handful of situations that certainly posed a high safety concern, and several of them were through the ability to have access to a personal device. And by chance, we intercepted that. So there's a great level of safety concern with it too that's not really, made mention of because it's delicate and we can't share all of that information, but it's a true concern that we have. And so while we want to value and respect the students who have led, with integrity and use their devices, I've switched to a Scribe, a notebook Scribe too. So I get it's really convenient. I'm a student at UConn, so I use it so I understand that convenience. But unfortunately, we're just in a digital age where we can't keep up. And to think about allowing some students, right, or upperclassmen or seniors sort of grandfathered into keeping the device, but not allow students in grade 9 through 11, that's really messy for teachers. That's really difficult to manage in the classroom, and it's really difficult for us to manage, from a tech side. And when we think about equity, if we have mixed classes of students who are sophomores, juniors, and seniors all in the ECE class, and we have some students who have seniors, right, that perhaps have a personal device, but then we're telling students in grade 9, 10 and 11, or 10 and 11 in the same class, you cannot, that's an equity issue. So it gets messy, and that's not really an easy solve for us.
Is it something that if seniors could they use it during study hall or something, their own personal device during study hall, that it's not during instructional time?
So while that would make sense at face value, that then goes, it still is a concern with the concerns I have as a building leader when it comes to safety. Right? And so there's a reason why all of these districts have removed personal devices. It wasn't just, a quick decision. They did the time, they did the research, they dug in. And so if you saw the list of school districts that surround us that do not allow, Farmington, Avon, Simsbury, Cromwell, Rocky Hill, Newington, all of these districts do not, in their board policy, do not allow personal devices. And that's with reason. So in some ways, when this was presented, to me, like I said in the beginning of the year, I said, this is not a Berlin High School thing, it's a district thing, right? Because it felt like we had so much change so fast. But again, with this quickly evolving digital world, it's hard for us to combat.
How many issues do you have with, and you probably don't know this answer, and Craig, Jen, maybe you guys do. And I know I'm keep going back to the seniors, but I'm trying to take what Grace said and really think about, where you're at, and Anusha, what they said. How many issues have you had with just seniors? Do you find that they have a more maturity? I'm sure that there is a handful that don't. I totally get that.
I think it's
but
hard
overall-
to. I think it's hard to respond to that because it's so subjective, right? Yeah. I walk into a classroom and the teacher has the lesson scaffolded, and some students are done and some students are not, and I'm walking always around and chatting, and I know this just recently, and I noticed 2 students were gaming, and they had personal devices, and so of course I'm like, even though the teacher said no, we should be on to the next task, right? And so the teachers were. It's really hard to gauge who and who doesn't, and it's also so tempting, right?
So I go back to, is there, Grace, Anusha, do you guys have websites or things for college prep or testing or whatever that you utilize that Chrome doesn't have or you don't have access to?
I think I'll start my responses. I have yet to start the college application process, but through what counselors have told me already, there's some schools I know that I want to apply to that are not on Common App. Like their application requires me to go through a different website, their own personal, which on Chrome, on Google Chrome, on the Chromebooks, is not an access. I cannot sign in typically through my own username and password if it's not like my Google school account. Anusha?
I just to comment back to that, and again, for the sake of dialogue back and forth, we've had zero instances of any, and you heard tonight just a few of the schools that our students are applying to outside of Common App. We've not heard of any students not being able to access applications, just to share.
Is that because they're doing it through their personal?
Don't know.
Okay.
But it has not been a persistent or even brought up.
Is there a tool where they could request access to like a specific college site if it's not something they can access, and then you guys could maybe go through and verify if it's acceptable or not, and maybe approve it so they can?
If the legitimate resource is somehow filtered, then we correct that if we're told.
And now also Grace and Anusha mentioned handwriting notes. I'm super technologically illiterate, so please, I don't know if this is even like a thing, but are you able to get some sort of that tool on the Chromebooks so they can still do that?
We do not have, we just have regular laptop Chromebooks, they're not the interactive writing ones.
Okay, and what about, Anusha was saying that sometimes freezing and having to update or reload during assignments, is there some way to correct that?
Yeah, there, we have technicians on site, we have support there's resolutions. If Chromebook's not acting correctly, we fix it.
So Chromebooks go through my office, and there's a loaner. Anytime a student comes with an issue, they immediately get a loaner. So they immediately have a Chromebook to use. It's just a simple swap. We get theirs fixed and get their Chromebook back to them. So we have that all in place because we have many students with Chromebooks. So that's been in place for years and works very well.
I can understand the inconvenience of, like she's saying, if she's in the middle of an assignment and something's not loading, I don't know if maybe too many people are something at the same time.
It's typically not on all of a sudden issue. It's that they've been having an issue and maybe haven't come to see me at a more correct time, and now they're in a critical moment. So there might be a little bit of learning curve of, hey, I was doing my homework last night at home, which they can still use their personal devices at home. It's within school that we're talking about. But then they would come see me in the morning before class, and we would get it remedied and fix it.
Thank you.
Do the Chromebooks have USB ports?
They do
Hang on,
have
can you
USB
repeat
ports.
yourself?
So
Peter,
the-
I didn't, mic
We
wasn't
didn't
on.
hear you.
Oh, sorry. I said, do the Chromebooks have USB ports? They said yes. Isn't there hardware that a student could use, like a writing pad? I've seen it before with other computers. You know, would a student be allowed to bring in that kind of pad as a hardware attachment to the Chromebook
Yes,
to use
they
that?
could if
Okay.
they wanted to.
It's like you would plug it in here.
If you guys, what is the percentage of extra, I know that you have lots of kids that use their personal devices, but if everyone has a Chromebook, what is your percentage, or how many do you have extra, so that if, several might break down or whatnot, will you be able to?
So every classroom has 2 lenders. So that's like an immediate, if a student, we don't typically give a lender out for I forgot it at home, not at the high school level, because then they all conveniently forget them at home daily. So there's 2 lenders in a classroom that the teachers asked for this years and years ago, because we used to run the I forgot it at home from the library. And the teachers said, can we control? Can we say, you've forgotten it the last 5 days, you're going to do it this way instead, because you need to bring your Chromebook. So the teachers want to control. So we put 2 lenders in every single classroom for those situations. And then right now, the lenders I have in my office, I have about 24, and that would be a lot of Chromebooks not working in the same moment for us. Our IT team is pretty phenomenal at fixing things. So it's usually a quicker turnaround for that kind of stuff. So right now I have 24. I could have more if I needed to, if we saw a big uptick, but
Do
I
they get
don't foresee
a
that
new
happening.
Chromebook as a freshman coming in, or is it just kind of recycled?
They get a brand new
A
Chromebook
brand new
as a
one, so
freshman.
they have, that's for 4
So
years.
that is their
And
Chromebook for
every
4 years.
freshman coming in gets a new
Yes.
Chromebook. I have to be honest, I'm struggling with this one.
My thing is, what they can do in the classroom, why can't they do it at home? So if they're in class and they're doing their work that they're supposed to be, great. But if they're not, and I know that it hurts the kids that are on the right path, but if they're doing essays for college, they should be doing that at home anyway. They shouldn't be doing that in a class when they're supposed to be learning something else. So to me, it's an easy answer.
But at senior level, they have several study halls. They're not nearly maybe as full course load as they would other times. I'm just thinking, if you have a kid who's a senior, going to be a senior, who has 2 study halls, 1 study hall per quarter, why couldn't they have access to their personal device to be doing what they need? I get the instructional time. I'm 100%, like I said, I have a kid who's going to be a senior, and I don't think he needs to be having that during class time. I'm just thinking, looking at all these kids that have all the, these study time, again, maybe they're not using it effectively, but for those that are, I just, like I said, I'm struggling with that, because why wouldn't they be able to use that 90 minutes then to really get some work or do,
Yeah, I do. Most seniors have study halls at the beginning or end of the day, which means they have senior prim. So it's very rare to have
Okay.
seniors in the middle of the day
That makes me
in
feel
the
better.
library or in,
Okay.
with the study hall. Their schedules are
Beginning
strategically
or end.
placed,
Okay.
in the middle of the day. So it's very rare to have seniors with study time in the middle.
Melissa has a question.
Yeah, just a clarification question, because with the change with the cell phones, during instructional time, they're put in those cases. So is study hall considered an instructional time?
No,
So are the personal devices put
Currently,
away?
so to Grace's point earlier, to meet students in the middle, we were strong about building a culture, right, versus compliance. That was the tagline throughout the entire year, culture versus compliance. It was not intended, for us, although that was the feel, to lock up the cell phones. We were adamant that this is during instructional time to remove them. So during study hall time, where to Grace's point, to have that sort of release of responsibility for students, this is your time, and you choose to do your academics or to take a break or to read or to socialize maybe a little bit with friends. So it's during those times that students are allowed to have their cell phones.
It's important to note that because other districts that do the pouches and things where you come in, you drop off your cell phone, you can't get it back at the end of the day, they met with huge resistance by students, huge resistance by parents. Our teaching students' responsibility during instructional time has been, supported by parents, supported by students, and supported by staff. So I think our model with the cell phones has been very well. The other piece is, if you're going to say with the personal devices, if the issue is during instructional time using it, then if we didn't talk about this, and I'm just throwing it out there, is it say, well, during classroom time, you have to have the Chromebook. That's all I want to see in class. I don't want to see the personal device. If you want to bring your personal device for study hall and other times during the day, where it's your time or before school, you're sitting in the lobby or after school, then it's fine to see. Because, the middle school's model with cell phones is different. It's been in place for years where it's not to be seen or heard. And it's been that way for years, and I believe that's the same model that's still going on. And so I think if we can't come to an agreement that personal devices shouldn't be there as proposed, is it better to say they're not used in class or not to be seen in classrooms? If they're used in your own time, then that's used on your own time. And I don't know if that's, a better model or some hybrid in the middle.
Would a separate Wi-Fi have to be set up, or would they then just be responsible for using their hotspot? If they, say, we said during their study hall, before school, after school, they can use their personal devices, but in class, would that even be possible with the school Wi-Fi? Because I know it's a security issue that we're also talking about.
Right.
Over the last 2 weeks, I look at the statistics of what might have been blocked as far as proxy category and VPN, maybe 2.8 million hits. And for those 2.8, there's another, at least 50% more of that have been allowed because it finds its way around. And I would say no, they shouldn't be on the Wi-Fi. They would have to use their own hotspot because it's, basically that violating E-rate, SIPA compliance requirement.
So if they use their own hotspot during a study hall with their own personal device, would that be something that?
Then I guess it's a matter of the content that's being displayed on the device while other people, whether they're minors or not, are in the room.
I guess the question for Grace down there, Anusha, that hybrid of saying bring your personal device, use it during study halls, use a hotspot, does that become too cumbersome where people would say it's not worth it?
See, I think it all comes back to it's hard to really pick and choose what you need and want to do. So if you only have an assignment that you want to type up on your Chromebook, sure, but there's some people who might actually, I know for me, if I had notes to take, I would 100% prefer to take my iPad to class, write whatever I need to write, in study hall, whatever, than try and have to just work around that, oh, okay, I'll wait till I get home, and then end up with loads of homework at the end of the night. That's not what I want to do for myself. I do have a study hall in the middle of the day, and I probably will next year, considering the fact that I have courses with lab days and such. So having that ability to actually use my downtime in school to continue with my work, because at the end of the day, I still have things going on outside of school, and it's really hard to kind of just say, okay, well, now you can wait till you're at home to use that personal device, just because it's not okay in the classroom. And I think it's really hard. It's a very big blanket solution almost. It covers everything and takes everything away. And if there's any kind of leeway or something, kind of like the proposed study hall solution, I think that's better than just saying you absolutely cannot have it.
I can understand from efficiency having the device that you like to use and for efficiency, a matter of time. That makes sense.
Is the mic on? Just make sure you're talking into the mic.
Okay. I think as far as study halls are concerned, especially with the hotspots and bypassing and all of that, if you have access to your phone during study hall, you already have access to all those other things. If anything, you might have more access just because it's a cell phone. So I don't know, at least the way I'm looking at it is if you already have access to all of that on your phone, then not allowing a device during study hall so that you can't access those things even though you can still access them on your phone, which you're allowed. I don't know, I just don't think, I think it's just like, it like counters itself. But I think like the biggest concern might be just, like Grace said, like specifically like, I don't know, I know like the idea of like a writing pad did come up, but I know a lot of students that prefer taking notes on an iPad or some sort of electronic device simply because they're able to compile their notes together. They have messy handwriting. It's easier to write on there. They're lefties. They don't smudge their paper. It's just a lot of that is, I think, where students would prefer a personal device. And then I don't know, I just feel like taking them away completely altogether might make the students feel, I don't know, I don't want to say too restricted, but since they're not allowed they suddenly aren't allowed their backpacks, their phones, and their personal devices, I don't know, I just feel like it might be too much of a change to like put out all at once.
And I think too, going back, like if you have access to your phone, and that's a big part of the culture that you've like been talking about, and it's a very big and positive change at Berlin High, but culture also means having your phone in those downtimes, and your personal device typically has less access than your phone to those things. So if the concern is safety, then phones already are going to pose the same risk as any personal device. During instructional periods, the distraction is a different story, and I think that's what can be countered, maybe Chromebooks only in classrooms, but phones typically, when used in recreation, will pose the same risk on the same Wi-Fi with the same VPNs as any personal device.
So just listening to, I love the insight from the student reps. And going back to what Julia said before, and I brought this up in our last technology meeting, technology has a lot of great aspects to it, especially, with whatever coursework. And we talk about this personal downtime, and not saying I would want it shut down completely, but it would be nice for people to interact with each other and not have that device as I will fully admit, it's an addicting thing. So whatever you're using, what purpose you're using it for, obviously that's different. But I mean, great insight from the student reps. I just think, with school, it's the work, that's your job. When you get there, yes, you have your social in between, absolutely, but to bring it back to their point, they do have the access to the personal device, say, because we're talking about, the study halls. So if we're talking about that, you already have a risk of safety even in the windows, whether the windows be the hallway time of using access or, the study hall. So it's not completely shut off, safe and secure, unless there was literally no access.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to strike the balance, right?
Yeah.
And I will share, it's been proposed to me countless times to remove cell phones from study halls, and it's something, again, being transparent, that I said, well, pump the brakes. We're to this point. The purpose, again, was building the culture, not a compliance and removing it completely. So we're trying to strike a balance here. This is months upon months of research that this team has done. And with that being said, the findings of the research, and again, just being transparent, my position from where the research started, or from where the conversation started to where the research led me, as a building leader in making a decision, changed and shifted. And so, there's a lot of accessibilities and a lot of privileges that come with, those personal devices, which are fantastic. But our Chromebooks are fully equipped, and you are able to take notes in Google Docs and then open your personal device at home and have your notes right there ready. So it's not as though you're not able to access your schoolwork during the day, leaving you with, only to work at home by any means. And this team here is always accessible and willing to work with students to find those workarounds. So I hear and appreciate, both of the feedback. That's why our reps are here, and we'll continue the conversation and be happy to answer any more questions.
I want Brian to clarify the agenda, the order of agenda items, because we have the vote here, but then we have the policy below. So do you want to just clarify
Sure.
the purpose of the first
Being that
reading?
this discussion took place, as Katie said earlier this year, and to be honest with you, I was not in support of it either. And, I was a huge proponent of bring your own device years ago. We didn't have device for every student. And when the safety issues arose, and I met with Jen and Craig, I did change and say, it is a safety concern, and I am concerned about it. With that being said, because of time, that we're in the June Board of Ed meeting, and we need to roll things out, and it's not fair to notify students and parents that devices aren't going to be allowed if they're buying devices and so on moving forward. The thought was, based on the subcommittee, we had a meeting with the meeting last week, that we had the policy redrafted as if though we would say that, personal devices are not allowed, which is what you have a sample of here, and we have first reading on the agenda. So the thought was, if there was support, but I see that we're at a juncture here where there may not be support by the board to move this forward. So we may have to remove an item from the agenda and not move forward with the policy. If the board voted and was on board with the policy, then we'd move forward to the first reading later in the meeting, which would then allow us to have our next meeting, do a second reading of the policy, adoption, and then we get messaging out to the parents in an expeditious fashion. That's why the board agenda is laid out this way. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so that's where we're at. It definitely, as you can see amongst us, there was definitely discussion along the way and movement as we went. And I know for some of you, this is the first time you're hearing about it, the discussion, and so on. And some of the points that are being raised are points that we had in our discussions also. So I don't know.
I think we, there's a few more people at the table who we haven't heard from, so I want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. However, I think if we vote on it and that the vote fails, that we can get additional information and continue the discussion. But just know everyone can vote how they want to vote based on the information you have. But if it does fail, we could get more information and continue this and put it on our next agenda. So, I want everyone to feel empowered to vote in what they believe in as we have this motion. But Gina and Brian, I'm not sure if I heard from you. I think everyone at that end shared. Yeah, did you? No? Peter, you want to go?
Sure. I think Grace and Nisha bring up good points. They're definitely sound arguments. But I think for the board's sake, the real question is a risk versus benefit analysis, right? Is the benefit of the students having access to personal devices for the added convenience that has been discussed, does that outweigh the risks we are discussing, such as potentially getting funding cut because we're not compliant, security breaches, the compromise of academic integrity if students are using their personal devices with tools that are being uploaded on them without being noticed? Do all of the risks that we're weighing against that benefit, do the risk, it's, again, risk versus benefit. I think we just, I'm fine with supporting this and moving along with it, because I think the risks are too great and the benefit of the personal device does not outweigh the risks, so.
Brian, do you have anything?
Yeah, just real quick. Chris, really well articulated. I do still support it. From what I heard in the committee meeting is this will allow the teachers to be the best versions of themselves, and that really matters a lot to me in terms of, trying to make sure they're not worried about these distractions. I mean, I supervise in my day job, and I can tell you it is hard when you don't have sort of a blanket policy to kind of, worry about those this and thens and nuances. And I can imagine at a school of, several hundred, it's probably even more challenging. And the only other thing, just kind of on Melissa's point, this is not at all what anybody was articulating for, but as a society, we've gone pretty far. You guys are the generation that's kind of, the pendulum's starting to swing back a little bit, but we are hiring people into the workforce now that lack social skills. And I think that's something that is going to come back and really hurt us as a society. And I do think at some point, we have to start to try to push that pendulum back the other way. The distractions, you can't keep them focused. They don't really know how to articulate and build relationships. And this is real. I mean, I'm not talking that they're, inept, but it's just not what I think we need in society in terms of like just being focused on technology all the time. So anything that can kind of really send that message, I support.
Tina? Jen?
I agree with Brian completely. I think, I hear you guys, you've grown up with computers, it's part of your DNA, so to speak. But I just, when it comes to the school and the district and the policies and the safety of all of you, and as Katie said, it's not you guys personally, it's just, there's just kids that are always going to push that envelope. And I just think, most of all, for safety, that would be my biggest concern. But to Brian's point about the interpersonal relationships that people are not able to have because they have to have their screen in front of them is really becoming an issue. And I think it's in the best interest of everyone, teachers, administrators, and students to definitely not have the personal devices.
Thanks. Jen, did you?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who works in higher ed, I mean, it's tough, this is tough for me because in 1, 2, 3 years, a lot of these kids will be in college and have full access to their devices. And learning now is important. But I do, as Peter said, the risks versus benefits is a huge thing to think about, and safety and security. But, when I'm hearing about note-taking, I mean, this is a skill that is going to be with them for a long time through all of their higher ed. And if note-taking on their personal device is what helps them do well in their class, then that concerns me if we're taking that away from them. But again, going back to the safety piece, it is priority.
Is there a way to get that enhancement on the Chromebook? No.
No, I believe what Grace is speaking to is the pen, correct? MacBooks come and scribes come with a pen, and so it's, and thinking about, especially, I'm sure, down this line, and through the crowd of our generation, we took notes in all different sorts of ways, and so it's, meeting our students and respecting, their learning styles. But I will say, in Jen, to your point, what we find when we discuss, too, about higher ed versus high school, in higher ed, students are consumers, right? And so there's a different buy-in, and unfortunately, social-emotionally, we're not there yet, all of us in high school. Some are not, and so some of those temptations are just too great.
Thank you. So I do want to thank Lori, Jen, Katie, and Craig for coming up and presenting to us, and everyone at the table, especially Anusha and Grace, for sharing. We are going to move to a vote. Oh, Jamie has one more question, but after her question, if anyone else has questions, by all means, but then we'll move to a vote.
Next year, for study halls, are they not going to be allowed to have their cell phones either? Or are we taking?
So right here, I'm saying it publicly, we, amongst the administration team, it's been proposed to us, but we are not moving in that direction. So we still want students to be able to access their cell phones during that downtime. And again, that's sort of that release of responsibility that even Grace is speaking to, where in to Jen's point too, of higher, just, some of these students in 1 or 2 years, or as soon as they leave at 2:10, they're not with us. It's truly intended to remove a distraction during instructional time.
Gotcha. So I just want to, just for me, thank you so much. I think for me, I don't know why I'm struggling with this so much. I think
because you have
I'm trying to not. Yeah, I'm trying to
I think it's more
because
personal,
again,
because
I
you're
don't want
living
him. I don't want instructional for me. No. But what Grace said does not get out of my head. I think that for seniors, I feel like there should be a maturity, and there's not in all of them, and there should be, but I get that there's not, and it's just so much more work for you guys, especially when you have senior, and again, in instructional time, no, but I'm thinking if for some reason have study hall in the middle of the day, or what, for me, it's just not so black and white. There's like these components to it, and the kids that are getting ready to be seniors are completely different than the social media aspect of the ones that are going into middle school. I mean, I get it. I mean, the director of social services, I know that. The Anxious Generation. I mean, we did that book. So I totally understand that, and I 100% think that we need to get rid of that aspect within the classrooms. The senior component, though, with kids and, having access and knowing how to self-regulate and making good decisions, and I can't get that out of my head, so I'm really, for me, I just can't, and I'm only thinking seniors for some reason, and I don't think it's just because of Josh. I mean, like I said, it might be. I'm trying not to, but again, what Grace said and what Anusha said, I just feel like, I don't know. Sorry.
I'm also struggling immensely. I can't stand technology. I was just talking to Mr. Campbell about this not long ago. I personally can't stand technology. However, to me, maybe there's something that I'm not connecting with, I'm not getting it, but I feel like if they're still gonna have their cell phones, to me, it's truly like, what is the difference? I agree 100% with instructional time. I don't think there should be the distraction. Kids are not learning, they're not retaining, and it's a huge issue for the teacher. I completely agree with that, but I feel like if they still have their cell phones, maybe I'm missing something. I don't understand what the difference is. So I'm having a really difficult time with this one.
During educational periods, like I witness it myself in my classes, watching kids do what they're not supposed to do, but what risk are like ulterior devices or personal devices posing that cell phones don't already? I mean, like, where's the line going to be drawn at what's a safety risk and what's not? I mean, phones are posing, at least in my eyes right now, I don't know what information or who can answer that question, but I feel as though phones pose the same, if not more risk than a cellular or a personal device of any other sort.
I think it's the internet, the firewall and the cybersecurity component, because with your cell phones, you're on your own plan, not necessarily hooked up to the Wi-Fi unless you don't have service in certain areas. I think that could be a bigger risk.
I think the separation is the cell phone is not available to students during instructional time. So to me, I agree with what's being said. If you have a personal device that's only available during non-instructional time, it is no different than having the cell phone. Craig, I'm not the most technology, but it really isn't, because as Grace said, everything you can do on the cell phone, you can do on the device. So that's why I'm asking if the hybrid of this is more palatable, and would students even want to bring a device if they only could use it during non-instructional time? Is it worth carrying 2 devices just to do that? And that would be very interesting. No, but the question is, you can't have the device out. It can't be brought into class. It can't be used. It's like, it goes back to the middle school model of the cell phone. It can't be out. I'm not saying it's as easy as saying they're just not allowed. I'm just saying if there needs to be a hybrid, is that a palatable hybrid?
Makes this shift so I think challenging for the students is the fact that our work now is very tech heavy. As a senior who's graduating, this doesn't even affect me, but I think looking back, if this rule was put into place, I would just appreciate maybe if my work was more, like for example, this year I took Spanish 5, and in that classroom, to limit screen time, to limit tech access, just to overall take a break from tech, a lot of our homework or classwork was paper. It was pen and paper. I feel I learned best that way. Note-taking was pen and paper. If kids had an iPad to take notes on, that worked, but we would receive worksheets. I feel like it might be kind of walking backwards or pedaling backwards, but I think the best solution and this isn't even related to this discussion about whether or not we should allow personal devices, but I think just maybe a suggestion to teachers or to admin, maybe focusing our coursework to be much more we rely so much on tech already. I think switching our coursework to be more pen and paper based would benefit all students. I believe that I would have learned a lot better in certain classes, but if that really, like, I think that's what my biggest concern is so much of our work that doesn't even need to be on computers. Obviously, we have certain things where we have simulations and stuff that we need the Chromebooks for. There's a lot of assignments that we do that on the Chromebooks that students could easily do on pen and paper. So maybe just like as a suggestion, maybe like kind of put more emphasis on that.
I agree. I think that kind of comes back too to the convenience portion of it. Like technology is convenient, it's easy. Personal devices are easier for students the same way technological assignments are easier for teachers. You can put in a grade a lot quicker, especially if it grades multiple choice questions for you. But if there's such a concern on the safety aspect and what students are doing that they aren't supposed to be doing, then is there any other solution rather than just taking it away from students? Because that's, again, it's not real life. I think back to how finals were added. My freshman year, I didn't take finals, but students were leaving high school without that ability. So by adding it back, even though it caused, obviously, some backlash, students were able to learn how to manage that just like they would in the real world. And I think pen and paper assignments, too, as inconvenient as they can be for both teachers and students, begin the shift away from heavy technology and all the concerns about safety, AI, and things such as those along those lines, and begin to focus more on education and how teachers can truly thrive in the classroom and teach students.
Love that.
This is weird that I'm in the crowd with a microphone. So to that point, it's an excellent point, and I will say that is current discussions right now. We went so heavy during COVID with making everything accessible through Schoology, right, and online platforms, and we just, even 4 years out, are chipping away sort of a backwards design at not being so tech heavy and reliant. And those are ongoing conversations right now, even as recent as today in the leadership team meeting that we had regarding backwards design with the vision of the grad power skills, right? Not everything is tech centered. So you're both on par with that.
Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and move to a vote. And again, please, by all means, vote however you would like. So all those in favor? Aye. Can I just do like a roll call for it? So Vanessa, anyone else down there? Aye. Aye. Peter, Vanessa, Peter, Melissa, Brian, Gina, myself. Jen, are you an aye or not? Yep, Jen, okay. Nay? Okay, so Jess and Jamie. And any abstentions? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 vote yes, 2 vote no. All right, so the motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for the discussion. Thank you for voting how you like. And thank you, Grace and Anusha, for all your input. All right, moving on to our second reading and adoption for policy 5132, student dress. I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent to just give us a little bit of insight, and then we can have a motion and discussion.
Let me just get to this one. This policy being revised to note the backpacks and book bags are not permitted to be carried between classes at Berlin High School.
Okay, so we can move to a motion for consideration, and then once we have that seconded, we can open that up to discussion. Do we have a motion for consideration?
Move that the board adopt the recommended revision to board policy number 5132, student dress, as presented.
Do we have a second? So the motion by Peter, a second by Jen. Any discussion on this?
Sorry. When you say like can't be carried at all between classes, does that mean like, I know like at Berlin High School, you're not allowed, you're allowed to grab your backpacks before last period and then go to your last period class. Is that changing?
Can you just talk into the microphone, Katie? Just hang on to that.
So as we live this year with the policy shifting, we allowed students last block to access their backpacks and bring them to the last period. What we found with that gray area is that, kind of to the last point that we had, right, it became gray and it became messy, and we've had an extreme number of tardies that we did not have in years past. And so next year, in line with this policy, the way it reads, students will not have the ability to have their backpacks in the classrooms from 7:25 to 2:10. So that last block rule that we have this year, we're simply removing, we're keeping it clean, and there's no backpacks in the classroom between 7:25 and 2:10. So they should be in lockers at all time.
So my question to that is, will you be adjusting the bus schedule based off of that? Just because I know my bus leaves at 2:13.
So Anusha, your siblings are on my principal's team, and they had that same question, so maybe you guys chatted about this. So with that being said, great question. So students asked and said, are you going to allow us to get out early? And I said, no, school's over at 2:10. What we will do is work with Berlin Transportation to let them know that students might be delayed an extra 2 minutes getting out from school at 2:10 to the bus. So there will be a slight delay, but it's really on students to get to the locker, plan ahead, plan accordingly, and make that routine shift. There will be a few nuances if you have a classroom in one corner and you have to get to the other corner to get to your locker on every other day, but we're hoping that and we figure that out in the first week or so of school. But we are not ending school early to get to lockers.
What will be the policy for dismissals? I know I'm a part of the girls golf team, and that requires us to be out the door at 2:00. I mean, there's not a lot of times I'm leaving early, even 1:30, and if I had to go, I have my backpack on me.
We'll work with students, and that's out of your control. Those are different situations, and we'll work with students. We'll let the athletic department know that you need a 5-minute earlier dismissal to access your belongings.
Smaller bags in addition to backpack, book bag, is that also not allowed?
Oh, Ms. Durgan, we had an array of different types of bags that came in, mail bags, briefcases. It started with a request of Chromebook carriers, and then we saw bags of all different sizes. And so what we're going to do this summer is we're going to put out in our communications to families what would be an appropriate size bag for students to use. And really, it should, really only be tight around a Chromebook case. Anything outside of that, outside of a lunch bag, is a backpack or a carry-on bag, and that needs to go in the locker. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. We can move to a vote. Since no other discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Were there any abstentions? Did everyone vote? Okay, the vote carries 9-0. Okay, moving on to the first reading of policy 5141, the wellness. We do not have to take any action this evening, but I'll have Brian briefly discuss it.
This is really just an update to be in compliance with the federal policy. Minor changes were made to the first paragraph. The following items have been added under the goals and guidelines. District shall regulate food and beverage offerings at events and school party celebrations in the elementary schools. District shall take steps to protect privacy of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch meals. And training and certification of food preparation and food service staff shall meet requirements of USDA professional standards for child nutrition professionals. So it's just an update so we align with the federal policy.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, moving on to our next policy, the first reading, 5131.81, the use of private technology devices by students. So this policy is being revised to no longer allow personal technology devices that we just voted on. Now we're going to have the reading of the policy. Brian, would you like to discuss this?
You can see that there's a redlined copy here, and it really just states that it's a switch from allowing personal devices to not allowing privately owned devices in the school. And if you read through it, that's really what we went over for the last hour or so. It's minor changes just flipping from allowing to not allowing. And it just says, except in these limited circumstances, any privately owned technology device brought to school must be turned on or silenced and must be kept out of sight of all times during the school day. And that gets back to originally what I said about the cell phone policy at McGee.
Any questions or comments on this? Okay, so at our next meeting, we will have our second reading. Moving on to discussing and setting of the 2025-2026 Board of Education budget. So we have the second referendum on May 27th, and the council approved the level of funding for the Board of Education's operating budget to be $54,567,908, and we need to take action. So before we discuss anything, do we have a motion for consideration?
Adopt an operating budget for 25-26 in the amount of $54,567,908 is set by the town council.
And a second? So motion by Peter, second by Jen. Any discussion?
Sure. So to bring everybody up to speed, there's a lot to discuss. So when the last referendum passed, or well, I guess it's a loose term, it was discovered that
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Just so we can see, we have it on the screen, what the cuts were.
Yep.
Okay.
So our original discussion centered around, after that $50,000 cut came, centered around, you know, the pay for parking at the high school to generate a little bit of revenue, approximately $20,000, and then additionally we were taking a little bit of a buffer from outplacement funds, you know, kind of expecting that there might be some fluctuation there. At our June 4th meeting of the Finance Committee, Mr. Benigni had expressed concern about kindergarten grade sizes or class sizes at Griswold and secondarily Willard, but the Willard situation is not as drastic as the Griswold potentiality at the moment. Typically, you want to see kindergarten class sizes below 20. All the research shows that having a class size below 20 is ideal, and that, you know, having it at an earlier grade level, such as kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, is far more impactful to the student in the long run than doing that later on. You know, it's a diminishing returns essentially. So with that, we had a discussion. I know that in the past, and this has been brought up to the board as well, that, you know, the town council and the mayor has said to us that we can go to them at any time if we feel that there's a you know, dire need of the board and the district. It's my personal opinion, and I think some of the finance committee as well, that having a kindergarten class size potentially swell up to 22 or 23 is far less than ideal, and not the setting we want to set as a precedent for our school district for many reasons. Mr. Benigni had discussed with us, that he had a discussion with the mayor and had raised that concern about the class sizes being 22 to 23. The mayor did not seem concerned about that at all. So that does not give me personally confidence that we could then go to the council and ask for that if the mayor doesn't seem to care about that issue. So we elected to remove the dean of students from McGee because Mr. Benigni had illustrated that you know, typically a school of that size would have 2 deans of students versus 3. We had previously discussed this in the past as well. I think we kind of took pause due to the administration change there and to allow the new administration to kind of take hold before doing that. It wasn't an ideal situation to remove that 3rd dean of students, but given the choice between that versus potentially having Griswold swell up to 22 or 23 students per classroom in the kindergarten grade, we elected to make that recommendation. And lastly, did I cover everything there, Brian? Am I missing something? Okay. And lastly, I just wanted to touch on the technicality of the referendum because I think it's good for everyone to understand. In the second referendum, a citizen, I believe his name was Mr. Richards, came to the Board of Finance, came to the council, and had pointed out that the no votes were great, the no votes were less than the total votes of the too low and too high. So the way our ballot is designed is that if you can vote yes, or you can vote no, and then vote too high or too low, okay? The intent is that only the person voting no then voices why they voted no. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but as an example, there were 300 no votes, and the total of too high and too low was 325, meaning that people were voting yes and then going on to vote for the advisory questions. The margin between the too high and too low was extremely tight. I think it was like 8 or 10, and the number was 25 greater. So the whole election and ballot was essentially a push because you could not make any determination because you had people voting erroneously. And the tabulators are not programmed to account for that. And that's a Secretary of State level thing, not even local. Just FYI.
I think it's important to note, and the thought is based on the F&O committee, that now that the referendum settled and we have a number, that I can't have correspondence to parents and things. I think it's important to note that, there's 6.3 positions being reduced. That does not show the dean position being reduced. So there's 7.3 positions being reduced in this budget for over, $600,000, as well as $1 million being reduced from tuition, transportation, and so on. And that's what's bringing us down to, to budget cuts to balance the budget at this time. So there definitely are reductions that are happening within this budget, and you can see them listed there. So, and that was something that I know that, based on the F&O committee, wanted to share it here to the entire board.
Anyone else want to share, ask questions, comment?
I just want to mention, taking that Dean of Students out of McGee, we did not take that lightly when we talked about that. 3 years or so ago, I was on the other side of this table at a microphone, making sure that we didn't cut that and doing my best to give my opinions on that. And I still hold true to those. I just think it was really difficult. We know what that position brings to McGee, and it's important. But at the same time, increasing the size of kindergarten classes is just not something we should be doing. And that just came to the top of the discussion.
Thanks, Jen. I think also with the transportation, a few meetings ago, we really kind of spun our wheels talking about the transportation component and how underutilized it is and how much money we're spending and what steps we can take to try and, I don't know, either get people to use the buses or answer the survey, correctly. And so, though this isn't necessarily a perfect solution, the transportation is also something that we've been talking about for years, going back and forth of pay to park, yes or no. So, I think at this point, we need to make sure that we are looking at the whole picture and not all taking from the same spot. That's good, Anything else before we move to a vote? Okay, we can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The vote carries 9-0. Now we will turn it over to Lori Chirpin and Kara Watson to present on the textbook recommendations for adoption.
So we have, now that we're moving to a full-day pre-K, we have 2 new textbooks that we'd like to propose. The first is Creative Curriculum for Preschool. That's something that's brand new to us. And the second one is Developing Roots for Pre-K, and that's something that we did a pilot on this year. So when we take a look at the creative curriculum, we reached out to our colleagues in other districts, and we said, what are you all using for pre-K? And they all said that they were using this. And when we talked to our kindergarten teachers, we asked them, what do you want when kids come to you in kindergarten? And they talk about things like, we want them to be able to problem solve. So that means we need to give them a lot of play in preschool so that when they get to kindergarten, they can problem solve through social situations. We want kids that can develop fine motor, scissors, cutting, all of that, not necessarily coloring, but not necessarily being able to write all their letters, right? The one thing that the kindergarten teachers say is, we'll teach them how to read, we'll teach them how to write, but we want them to come with those baseline skills to be able to do that, and that's what the creative curriculum really does. So Michelle Zoishner, she's gonna talk about these pieces. That was just kind of an overview, and I can pass out the books for you to have them.
So the creative curriculum comes in various units that will be able to be embedded throughout different play centers, throughout different learning centers, throughout just different activities throughout the classroom. They include a variety of books, of activities, and what we had looked at this program several years ago and decided not to go with it because it didn't have the depth of instructional differentiation and levels for our special needs students. And it has been revamped, and it does hit various learning levels and helps the teachers guide the curriculum that way. So that was part of our reasoning, on top of what Lori had mentioned, to look at this. The teachers have looked at this and gone through it and are excited about the opportunity to use that. As far as the math program, we piloted it this year, and as you know, it's a half-day program this year. So they got their feet wet with it. There's a lot more digging to do with it. But again, it helps develop centers. We're hoping to dig more into play and having the play centers and learning centers that work with, embed both the math and the creative curriculum. I don't know if you have any questions.
So we will entertain a motion for consideration, and then once it's seconded, we'll open it up to discussion. Do we have a motion?
Move to adopt the textbooks Creative Curriculum for Preschool published by Teaching Strategies and Developing Roots Pre-K by Sarah Schaefer and Neely Boyd and published by Methodology.
So we have the motion by Peter, the second by Brian. Any discussion? Comments, questions? All right, we can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Opposed? Did everyone vote? Okay, so the vote carries 9-0. All right, thank you so much. Thank you for presenting those. You guys can keep passing them down and looking at them as we wrap things up. Ashley Dorsey, Director of Finance and Operations, do you have an update for us?
All right, so a lot of the same projects and a lot of the same status, but still a little bit to update. So the bid packages for the construction management and construction firms for the HVAC projects over at Griswold and Hubbard Elementary School are closed and currently under review. Packages will be reviewed at the Public Building Commission at their next meeting, which is scheduled for this Thursday. For BHS flooring update, WJE Associates will be identifying the contaminated floor tiles to be replaced this summer at Berlin High School. 2 contractors have been identified to remove and replace contaminated tiles throughout the summer. The work will likely begin in the hallways by the second week of July. However, no specific schedules have been established to this date. And the Public Building Commission will be discussing the architectural and design services requested in the planning of the permanent fix for the floor tile situation over at Berlin High School. That is also on their agenda for Thursday's meeting. The BHS pre-K site work, the Town Council approved our request to use the on-call vendor list at their meeting on May 20th. Site work at Berlin High School for the full-day pre-K program will begin in the next few weeks. Again, and no specific schedule has been established. They're looking to possibly start a couple weeks after the kids get out. McGee Science Labs, still no status there. Bids for the architectural design services were closed on March 27th. 3 bids came in, and they are in review at the Public Building Commission. It was tabled at their last meeting, and it is supposed to be on the agenda for their meeting on Thursday. The Willard bathroom renovation, so mobilization and the initial setup for the Willard bathroom renovation will begin next week with an anticipated construction date of actually starting during the week of June 23rd. This project is expected to last the entire summer. The Willard Playground is also expected to begin soon after kids are dismissed for the summer break. The specific schedule not yet established. There's a lot of waiting in my office when it comes to construction projects. And then some good news here, the CCTA renovations, interviews for architectural firms were conducted this afternoon for the renovations over at the CCTA. 4 firms were interviewed. The committee is looking to make a final decision on our A&E firm in the next couple of weeks. These renovations will be funded through the Community Challenge Grant. That's all I got.
Any questions for Ashley? Thank you. Okay, so the next agenda item is the Board of Education retreat in August. So we will be sending something out in an email with potential dates like within the next week, so just be on the lookout for that. As of now, it looks like we're not going to necessarily need a July meeting. So we are hoping that since tonight was a long meeting, we covered a lot of things. We won't have to meet in July, but there's always the possibility of something changing where we have to do so. So, we are planning on having a retreat in August, and we're hoping that we can skip our July meeting. So just be on the lookout for your Board of Ed email for that. And before we wrap things up, I do want to thank Grace and Anusha for spending the whole night here with us. This is a long meeting, and I know you guys, when you got up earlier, I said you guys don't always have to stay, and you guys do, you're committed, so thank you. Thank you again for serving this year, and Anusha, best of luck to you next year at UConn. I know that you're going to do great, so thank you. We are going to move into executive session for unaffiliated administrator benefits, evaluation of superintendent and superintendent's contract. And we will be inviting Denise Parsons and the superintendent. Do we have a motion for consideration to move into executive session? Peter?
Administrative contracts, superintendent contract. While inviting Denise Parsons.
Did you invite him too? Did you invite him too?
And Brian Benigni.
Thank you. So motion by Peter, second by Brian. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, 9-0. So we are going to enter into executive session at 9:24. We'll head across the hall to the upbeat room, and then we will adjourn from there. We'll open the door and go ahead and adjourn.